faithfully delivering value by interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, I'm going to interpret the book Risk Perception for you. The subtitle is How to Make Precise Decisions. Modern society is riddled with hidden risks everywhere. From terrorist attacks and financial crises to the COVID-19 pandemic, unexpected crises like volcanic eruptions keep happening. Often, people respond out of fear and avoidance, which just makes things worse. For instance, in the months after the 9/11 attacks, many Americans avoided flying and drove instead. This led to a surge in traffic accidents. According to stats, about 1,600 Americans died in car crashes that year by avoiding flights post 9/11. That's over 5 times more than the passengers who perished in 9/11. And after September 11th, the U.S. wars in Afghanistan and Iraq caused thousands of casualties and cost over $1 trillion. Some argue that the financial strain might have fueled the 2008 financial crisis. So, how do we make smart decisions when facing risks? The book Risk Perception we're exploring today dives into exactly that. The author, Gerd Gigerenzer, born in Germany, was a psychology professor at the University of Chicago and is a world-renowned risk expert. He teaches globally, showing folks how to perceive risk correctly. His audience includes top doctors, bankers, entrepreneurs, and politicians.
Gigerenzer believes that making good decisions requires learning stats to see risk objectively.
We also need simple rules of thumb to tackle complex problems, not make them worse. But in this book, he details risk types, common misunderstandings about probabilities, and strategies for different risks. After publishing, this book got rave reviews.
Publishers Weekly praised it, saying even non-math folks can learn from it.
Next, I'll break down the book's main points into 2 parts. First, what kinds of risks are there? Second, how should we handle risks the right way? Let's start with part 1. What kinds of risks are there? The author splits risks into 2 types: known risks and unknown risks. Known risks mean we can calculate the specific probability of something happening based on existing factors, usually as a percentage. Like in weather forecasts, the meteorologist might say, there's a 30% chance of rain tomorrow. That's from checking humidity, temperature, atmosphere, and precise calculations. For instance, if someone gets COVID-19 and the virus hasn't mutated, what's their risk of dying? We can also give an accurate percentage based on past cases. Unknown risks, on the other hand, mean we only know something might happen, but with so many uncertainties, we can't pin down a specific probability. Many scientists predicted that in today's hyper-connected world, a global pandemic could break out, but no one could calculate it exactly. What's the probability it'll happen this year or next? Just like the COVID-19 pandemic, it was totally an unexpected black swan event. Or take a company doing great now, it might lose market share to new rivals or see its products flop from policy changes, leading to a crash. But no one can calculate these risks. They're all unknown risks that cause anxiety and fear. So psychologically, people are risk aversion and crave certainty.
Sometimes this stops us from seeing risks objectively, warps our view of reality, and leads to bad calls.
The book outlines 3 negative outcomes from risk aversion. The first bad outcome is called the zero risk illusion. This means people mistake known risks for certainties, thinking they'll definitely happen or not, especially when the probability is small, making the illusion more likely. For example, in medical checkups today, we use high-tech tools like blood tests, genetic screening, CT scans, and so on.
In many folks' minds, the results from these methods must be right.
But that's not true. Whether it's HIV testing, cancer screening, or DNA matching, they can all be wrong. If someone falls for the zero risk illusion and takes test results as gospel, they might suffer needless pain. So, you take HIV testing in the US. It's widespread. Blood banks test donors, the military screens recruits, and couples get checked when marrying or during pregnancy. In many people's minds, HIV testing is seen as 100% accurate. But the author points out that even the most accurate HIV tests can be wrong. If someone tests positive, there's a 96% chance they actually have HIV, high, but not 100%. With less accurate rapid tests, the chance of misdiagnosis is even higher. In strict medical protocols, HIV testing is typically done 3 times. Only if all 3 are positive can it be confirmed. If the person's lifestyle isn't high risk, they should get retested elsewhere after 1 positive. But few tell test takers this, and medical advisors or government agencies might even exaggerate the accuracy. For example, the Illinois Department of Health website states, a positive HIV test means antibodies are in your blood, meaning you have AIDS, which isn't true and causes unnecessary panic. Many misdiagnosed as positive firmly believe they have AIDS, causing immense stress. And some lose jobs, families, or friends. Some commit suicide. Others give up and have unprotected sex with HIV-positive people. If they'd known the real risks of HIV testing, they could have avoided these risk aversion consequences. The second bad outcome is the turkey illusion. Mistaking unknown risks for known ones, thinking you can predict the future. It comes from a story where a turkey fears the butcher will kill him, but he finds the butcher kind, coming daily to feed him. After 100 days, the turkey concludes, since the butcher's fed me this long, he'll keep doing it. But the turkey doesn't know. The next day is Thanksgiving, and the butcher enters with a cleaver. The turkey's flaw, thinking the future can be predicted from past experience, but reality's full of uncertainties we can't grasp. Predicting the future based solely on past experience is like marking a boat to find a lost sword. Futile. The turkey illusion is everywhere in finance.
Risk assessments in the U.S. housing market rely on math models using historical data.
According to those models, the 2008 real estate risk was minimal. Now, then, Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson even declared, our financial institutions are strong, efficient, and flexible. But within months, the subprime mortgage crisis exploded, collapsing firms and triggering a global financial meltdown. Goldman Sachs CFO David Vinyar admitted the crisis was beyond their risk model's predictions. The author argues financial firms' risk assessment philosophy is flawed. They think past data eliminates unknowns. That mindset ignores reality. Constant change, uncertainty, and unexpected events. Focusing only on past data detaches from reality and cripples present problem solving. Experts often predict the future based on past experience and get proven wrong. When phones were new, some British experts said they'd be useless since Britain had plenty of mail carriers. When trains debuted, a London professor claimed high-speed travel was impossible because passengers would suffocate. In hindsight, these views are absurd. Predicting future risks solely on past experience is unreliable, caused by risk aversion. The third negative outcome is defensive decision-making. This means people avoid optimal solutions due to fear of blame, choosing safer but inferior alternatives. The author's friend at a nonprofit needed financial audits to prove proper use of donated funds. They had 2 options: a local small firm, cheaper, sends experienced CPAs, or a big international firm. The big firm charged more, but sent junior accountants. Though the small firm seemed better, they chose the big one. The reason is, if donors find out the audit's done by an unknown small firm, they'll get suspicious, wondering if there's insider trading involved. But if it's a well-known big firm, donors will feel reassured. To avoid being blamed, the charity wastes donors' money on unnecessary high audit fees. Defensive decision-making is especially common in the medical field. The U.S. has a large number of lawyers, with the highest per capita rate, second only to Israel, ranking second globally. In the U.S., suing with a lawyer is also very common. As a result of this social climate, many American doctors make patients undergo unnecessary tests or treatments. If they don't do this, doctors fear patients will sue them for neglecting the illness or not taking better treatment options. A survey in Pennsylvania, U.S., shows up to 93% of doctors have practiced defensive medicine to avoid lawsuit risks. Some doctors order high-definition CT scans regardless of patient need. Unnecessary CT scans not only waste money, but have radiation doses 100 times higher than X-rays or more. Children are more vulnerable to radiation damage than adults. Their cells divide rapidly. DNA is easily damaged, potentially causing cancer. Other doctors order invasive tests like biopsies or endoscopies, which can be very uncomfortable or even painful.
Moreover, for some patients, it's not even necessary.
But in doctors' view, if a patient is misdiagnosed without these tests, they could end up in court paying compensation.
So regardless of necessity, they make patients get checked. For doctors, it's beneficial and harmless. For patients, it's spending money and suffering. All right, to wrap up the first part, risks can be divided into known risks with calculable probabilities and unknown risks with incalculable probabilities. Risk aversion and the pursuit of certainty can lead to the zero-risk illusion, turkey illusion, and defensive decision-making, causing negative consequences. So how should we correctly handle risks? Next, in the second part, we'll discuss what to do. I've summarized the book's methods into 3 key points. First, conduct thorough research to understand what risks an issue faces and determine their type. The author takes breast cancer screening as an example. In the U.S., many medical institutions and media encourage women to get X-ray screenings. Many women therefore believe it's essential and get screened annually. But few know that screening itself carries risks, like misdiagnosis forcing patients into confirmatory biopsies. Even when confirmed false, this process causes immense distress and pressure. Many develop sleep disorders affecting daily life and work. Another major risk, screening may cause more harm than good. Defensive medicine. Cancers divide into 2 types: progressive cancers that spread and need immediate treatment, and non-progressive cancers that grow so slowly they may never show symptoms. Most screenings can't distinguish these.
Many doctors, avoiding liability, recommend treatment anyway.
Thus, women with non-progressive breast cancer undergo needless mastectomies, chemotherapy, etc., causing hair loss, anemia, early menopause, and heart damage. Risks don't end there. Some women may develop cancer from the X-rays themselves. Many also report breast pain during screenings from compression. We rarely hear this info. The author isn't against screening, though. He believes screening should be a woman's choice, but women shouldn't be misled by partial info. They must understand their risks. Then make informed choices after weighing pros and cons. The second point, correctly understand probability. Knowing percentages alone isn't enough for good decisions. The book divides known risk probabilities into absolute and relative risk. Absolute risk means the actual percentage chance something happens. Relative risk means how much the probability increases or decreases, not the base probability itself. We should focus on absolute risk, not relative risk. For years, British people feared oral contraceptives because media periodically reported they might cause lung blood clots, threatening women's lives. The most famous report came from the UK's Drug Safety Committee, claiming third-gen oral contraceptives doubled women's blood clot risk, a terrifying number that alarmed all British women. Many stopped taking pills, causing unintended pregnancies and spiking abortion rates.
The NHS spent an extra £4 to £6 million on abortions, and pharmaceutical stocks plummeted.
But that 100% increase is relative to prior risk. What's the actual risk?
Actually, it's very low.
Studies show second-gen pill users' absolute clot risk is 1 in 7,000.
For third-gen pills, it's 1 in 3,500. 100% relative increase, but still minuscule absolute risk. So we look at the book.
Had the committee said 1 in 3,500 risk, nobody would have panicked.
So when deciding, don't be fooled by relative risk percentages. Focus on absolute risk. That's key. To grasp absolute risk better, try reframing it. People usually describe risk probabilities with percentages. Simple and intuitive. But what does that percentage actually mean? People interpret it differently, causing confusion. For example, Since U.S. rain forecasts began in 1965, Americans have debated what 30% chance of rain really means. When the forecast says 30% chance of rain tomorrow, some think it'll rain 30% of the time. Others believe 30% of the area gets rain, or that 3 out of 10 meteorologists predict rain. The truth, it rains on 3 out of 10 days with identical forecasts. This percentage misunderstanding is common in medicine too. The author's psychiatrist friend tells mild depression patients this antidepressant has a 30 to 50% chance of causing sexual dysfunction. Many patients get nervous hearing this and refuse to take the medication. Now, the doctor later realized patients interpret the probability as, after taking this drug, there's a 30% chance I'll have sexual problems. But what he actually meant was that 30% to 50% of patients taking this drug experience sexual side effects. 88. This happens because percentages lack context, making people confused about what the probability actually refers to. Luckily, percentages aren't the only way. The author suggests using frequency, how often something happens, to express probability. Doctors could say, out of 10 people taking this drug, 3 to 5 may have sexual issues. Put this way, patients understand the side effect probability refers to people in general, not specifically their own sex life. Some initially scared patients then agree to take the medication, optimistically believing they won't be affected. Essentially, the doctor's approach uses frequency to describe probability, replacing abstract percentages with concrete occurrences, which clarifies what the probability applies to. And then I referred to this helps us grasp probability more accurately, avoiding bad decisions from misunderstandings. When facing risks, third point, confronting unknown risks with incalculable probabilities. We can simplify decision-making by using rules of thumb. Rules of thumb are simple principles distilled from practice. They might come from personal experience or be long-standing in a field. They don't weigh many factors, but use a few key ones to estimate probability and decide quickly. In January 2009, a plane taking off from New York collided with geese at 850 meters, causing both engines to fail. Captain Chesley Sullenberger had to decide instantly, try returning to a New York airport or ditch in the Hudson River. The airport was farther and possibly unreachable, while ditching risked many casualties.
People might assume the captain analyzed engine status, measured airspeed, wind, altitude, and calculated everything before deciding.
But there was no time. He couldn't diagnose the engines or predict what else might go wrong. Moreover, engine failures at low altitude are super rare, with no cases to reference. Captain Sullenberger based his decision on a simple rule of thumb. That is, during flight, if a landing spot is unreachable, its position on the windshield will appear to rise. Conversely, if reachable, it'll seem to descend.
After observing JFK's position change, he chose the Hudson River, landing successfully with all passengers rescued.
Later analysis showed the plane almost certainly couldn't have reached any airport and likely would have crashed. Rules of thumb are widely used in business too. The author argues today's volatile market is full of unknown risks and executives must make fast decisions across domains. And relying solely on data analysis is slow and might miss unknown risks, leading to bad calls. But senior managers have deep experience, broad exposure, and rich insights. Their rules of thumb are battle-tested, more reliable, and enable quick decisions. Top leaders often organize their rules into categories, knowing when to apply each. The book cites Ray Stata, Analog Devices chairman, whose hiring rule is integrity first. Untrustworthy candidates get rejected regardless of skill. For company culture, he advocates encouraging risk-taking and empowering employees. When evaluating business plans, he assesses both the plan and the planner's trustworthiness. These rules streamline his management. Even in data-driven finance, rules of thumb sometimes handle unknown risks better than complex models. Economist Harry Markowitz spent years developing the mean variance optimization model, winning a Nobel Prize. This model analyzes past stock trends to allocate funds via complex calculations, maximizing returns while minimizing risk. Many banks use this model for financial products, but after retiring, Harry himself used a simple rule of thumb: divide money equally and buy different stocks. And he said in interviews that if a stock rose and he hadn't bought it, he'd feel regret. To avoid regret, he found it safer to buy a bit of everything equally. So, which performs better, equal allocation or the mean variance model? A study comparing 7 stock portfolios showed equal allocation yielded better returns in 6. This doesn't mean the mean variance model is useless. Its accuracy depends on historical stock data. More data means better precision. For 50 stocks, the model would need 500 years of data to outperform equal allocation. But there's simply not that much historical data available. Note, while effective, equal allocation doesn't guarantee profits for amateurs due to nuances like how many stocks to pick. Ordinary people struggle with these questions. Usually only finance professionals profit from this method. But for stable investing, ordinary folks can use 80% of income for expenses, invest 20%, and split equally into real estate, bonds, and stocks. Money for bonds or stocks can go into stable, reputable legacy funds. Fund managers diversify risk by investing in multiple bonds or stocks based on market conditions. This diversified approach embodies equal allocation. It may not make you rich, but prevents big losses. Long-term holding yields steady returns. All right, to summarize part 2, 3 key points for handling risk. First, thoroughly research and issues risks and categorize them. Second, correctly understand probability. Focus on absolute risk, not relative risk, using frequency. Third, when facing unknown risks, we can simplify our thinking and make decisions using rules of thumb. With that, we've covered most of the book Risk Perception. The author believes risk is an inevitable part of life. Fearing and avoiding it only creates more problems and worsens our lives. We need to learn statistics and have the courage for independent thinking. This helps us better understand risks, reduce anxiety, and live happier lives. All right, risk perception. That concludes our interpretation of this book for you. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.